Connor.
Move that the question be now put.
Call Brendan Horan.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Speaking to part one, I must say I absolutely agree with all of the speakers on this side of the House, and absolutely, but I think we'd still be the only ones that I agreed with. However, as with Mr Farfoy, the Honourable Mr Farfoy, I'd like to speak about the change from an affordable, integrated, safe, responsible and sustainable land transport system to an effective, and this is where they just play on those words over that side, effective, efficient and safe transport system in the public interest. And what is the public interest? Well, the public interest is certainly not the danger of having this collapse funding for sustainable transport and sustainable transport programs. And in the city that I dwell in, Tauranga, that would wipe out walking buses, walking school buses for children's programs, kids on feet programs, kids on bikes, bikeways, everything that's associated with getting rid of the congestion around schools and making it safer around schools, making our children safer. This bill has the potential to completely collapse that funding. They do, however, talk about exhibiting a sense of social and environmental responsibility, but again, it's just talk, and it's not in the objective statements. Now, the new GPS also removes affordability, which may enable the government to justify building new roads that do not have a cost-benefit factor ratio outcome, like the Auckland Holiday Highway. And I think if I touch on some of the roads around Wellington, because it's obvious on that side of the House that they know very little about Wellington, and I will say that the only thing dying in Wellington is the support for the National Party. But I will let's talk about Transmission Gully and the Porirua bypass. Now, who would put a bypass? Well, when we talk about Transmission Gully, the only way that fits into the cost-benefit ratio is when you extend it through Otaki and all the way to Taupō. And then it fits, and then you can have it. And if we look at the Porirua bypass, what about the people from Porirua and some of those areas who may not be able to afford the road toll that is inevitably going to be thrust upon unsuspecting motorists there? They're going to have to do this massive dogleg to get into the city. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And, sir, I'd just also like to touch on the undemocratic way that this government seems to be operating. And I'd like to ask some of our Labor members who are far more experienced than myself, have you ever heard of a minister preventing a local MP from getting a traffic briefing from NZTA on the future of roading in their area? Because that's what happened to me. The minister stopped the officials from briefing me on the plans for roading in Bay of Plenty and the Western Bay of Plenty. And I think that's just another indication of what this government's all about, just trying to railroad through bills with very little scrutiny. And at the end of the day, it's New Zealanders who pay the cost, and it is a massive cost. And I would say, please do not play with the safety of our children and the future of New Zealand.
I call Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. I would like to, actually, first I would like to say that in my